All right, hello everyone. My name is Jim Mitchell and I'm with NACBA and the Consultants Training Institute. We want to welcome each of you to Around the Valuation World morning show. A few housekeeping items. First, you can obtain CP credit for this session by answering all the poll questions that will pop up on your screen during this session. And we will play this sound. My phone just, hope that works. There it is. Okay. To alert you that the poll has been launched. Please be attentive and respond promptly to the poll questions. CPE certificates will be available on the NACB.com portal in 3 to 4 weeks after the conference. If you have any questions during today's presentation, you'll be able to submit those questions into the Q&A section of our Zoom toolbar. Please use the Q&A option for relevant questions for our presenters. If you have a generic comment, a technical question, or a poll or questions about the poll, you can use the chat feature for those types of questions, as it will be directed to me and Colin Brown. And with that, I'm going to try and time over to Greg. Greg, are you there? There you go.
I am here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Around the Valuation World, our morning conference show. Again, usually we are on the third Monday of the month for 2 hours. We're really pleased to be invited to do an hour at the conference this morning, and we're equally pleased that you were able to attend.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Brian. And I would like to thank Brian and all of the staff for the excellent job they do so that we can bring this show to all of the members. So we have a wonderful morning planned. Let's see. These are the correspondents involved in the show, and you will also recognize a pretty good number of them are involved in current updates too. We're trying to keep everything current and interesting again for you all. And this morning we have 3 presentations. Brian Jones is going to be talking to Mark Cusick and Bob Grossman. Michael Gregory will be talking to Hubert Klein, and unless Hubert Klein is having power issues like a lot of the East Coast. And I'm going to interview Robert Carter and Michael Pactier. Again, that might vary a little bit depending on East Coast power issues because
Harry, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, the internet all works great as long as we have cable and power.
Right, and there's not hurricanes and tropical storms blowing over the East Coast.
You know, if pandemics weren't enough, now we're going to have hurricanes too, and really mix it up.
Well, it generally is hurricane season, but not generally pandemic season. So
it's early. It's early for hurricane season too. So
yeah.
I mean, it is officially season, but it's early to have one go up and tear up half the East Coast. Yeah. So, well, I'm going to hand it over to Brian now.
Thank you.
And let him get started with our first section of the morning.
Good morning. So we're going to start off our show with 2 individuals that most of you probably know by now. They're luminaries in our profession, Mark Cusick and Bob Grossman. Outstanding individuals, having contributed to NACVA for individually, certainly 2 decades. So there's many decades of training and support and resources, mentoring that they've provided not only to NACVA but throughout our profession. They are partnering with us, the NACVA, on a new program that they've been working on and have invested a lot of time in over the past several years, a program called Pocket Experts. Bob and Mark, if you've got your cameras ready to go, please join us. Also your mics, so our audience can see your amazing faces this morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Brian.
How you doing there?
Great. We're doing good in the East, not too bad.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're not far east like the people incurring the problems, the power issues.
Yeah. And Mark, you're out of Illinois.
Yeah, we're in Chicago, and everything's holding down as long as the violence doesn't keep on creeping out of the south side.
Yeah, well, let's hope that's not continuing to be the case there.
Yeah, right.
But we're here to talk about Pocket Experts, a program that you all have, as I mentioned, have been working on for quite some time, and we launched recently. Those of you who are members of the NACVA might have received an email message from our CEO, Parnell Black, giving an overview, an introduction to Pocket Experts. But Mark and Bob, tell us a little bit about Pocket Experts and the thoughts and vision that you have behind the program, and also how it might benefit our membership.
Well, Pocket Experts was an idea that Bob and I came up with about 4.5 years ago or so as we were pulling this together. And we wanted to find a way to be able to reach all of our clients that we've been talking to, Brian, for enormous amount of time, over 30 years, and give them the tools and the ability to reach a handful of experts that they normally can't afford to have on their team. So Pocket Experts was born as a result of pulling a team of experts from all around the country and giving them a voice, and giving them the ability to have access to 30 million business owners all over the country.
30 million business owners through the platform and the Pocket Experts. So how are those experts and the platform will be able to support our membership?
Well, as we're going forward, we have the ability for our members to be able to log in and to be able to leverage their time and effort and energy by utilizing the talents of all the experts that are participating inside of Pocket Experts, which gives you a vast amount of knowledge to be able to give a lot of solutions to your clients. There's a lot of collaborative effects where people can work together on various different projects. You have the ability to have a voice where if you have some knowledge you would like to share with the business community, you can do that. We give you the opportunity to generate 20% royalties on the information that you put into Pocket Experts to share with basically will be the world, and giving you the ability to grow your practice by leveraging the tools that we have encountered inside of Pocket Experts Solutions. Bob?
Yeah, in effect, Brian, what we've designed here is, as Mark said, is an internet-based platform for conveying information that's held by professionals throughout the country. You know, professionals like our members at NACFA with very specialized skill sets that smaller and privately held business owners need sorely, but oftentimes can't afford them. So the idea behind the platform when we started to lay it out and design it was this sense of how do we make this connection between the knowledge that our professionals have, that NACFA members have, and that these 30 million business owners need around the country. So we've designed this platform with a base start from the member's perspective, the user of the information's perspective. How could they access these skill sets and this knowledge without incurring the significant sums that go into paying professionals? At the end of the day, there's going to be professional fees, obviously, but how could they do it more efficiently and more cost effectively so that they can take more advantage of the knowledge that our team has, our NACFA team, other professionals throughout the country, etc. From there, we developed, and as all great ideas have, and Mark gives me credit for sharing the idea, but this was really Mark's initial idea, working behind this Pocket Experts Solutions. But the idea then evolved to, you know, this conceptual idea of it works both ways. It's advantageous, of course, to the members that I just spoke of, but it's also advantageous and can be incredibly advantageous, as Mark alluded to, for the service provider, for the contributor, for the person that is trying to drive their practice and grow their practice as well. And we think through the use of this platform, we've made a segue or a gateway, if you will, to make the connections between the knowledge that our professionals have within NACFA and again across the country, our team of experts, and those members that so badly need their services.
So the platform includes information from a variety of experts across all industries or a variety of industries. So let's say I'm a member and I am challenged with my own practice in, let's say, marketing, or I'm challenged in my own practice with some technical issues of valuation or report writing or litigation. Or my client is looking for, let's say, a human resources individual. I, as a member or a potential someone who's got some interest, can come to the platform and search for those experts or an expert to help myself. And is that kind of how the program will work? Someone looking for a specific level of support individually or for their firm, how would a member, or what would be some kind of issues that our members might be interested in to search for solutions through PocketExperts.solutions?
Well, Brian, we have an opportunity. One of the major challenges were to get people to understand information they need to know but don't really know what to ask, right? So what we basically started with was a 3-tier system where we start out with the life cycle of a business. You're either growing a business or running a business, or you're starting a business or exiting a business. And from that platform, most business owners know where they are in that life cycle. So let's say we're running a business. You can click on running a business, and all of the different areas of interest would pull up for running a business, such as marketing and branding and financial statement analysis and all the different areas, insurance and human resource capitals, whatever it is that a small business owner would need to operate their business, you find underneath the area. And when you then select that particular area, you can then go into the 3rd tier, which is then the topics. Okay. And those topics have then been provided. So you narrow the search. Let's say, for example, you go into running a business, you go into marketing, and then from marketing, you click on that, and all the different topics on marketing pop up, and you select the different.
That makes great sense. Any intel to that, Bob?
Questions.
Go ahead, Mark.
The top 10 questions that individual would like to ask, right, in that particular deal. So virtually, because we do have platforms on the iPhone as well as on the Android systems, you can pull up Pocket Extras on your phone, sitting in a conference room with your team and say, what topics do we want to talk about today? And maybe that topic is going to be retirement plans. And you can pull up retirement plans on Pocket Experts and sit around your virtual conference room with that virtual expert and your team and discuss the different opportunities that you have for retirement plans. Okay. If in fact you have the answers, great. If you don't have the answers, you have the ability to access a live event or webinar that has been recorded by that expert to answer all of those questions. Okay. And for $99 a la carte, you have the ability to get some information for approximately 1/3 the cost of sitting down with an expert and actually going through that process.
And it similarly works for, let's say, a member has some technical challenges, needs some communication or support on the technical aspects of valuation or litigation. The service can help in that way as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think this is an education-based platform, which works well for, again, those business owners and entrepreneurs that need to gain additional knowledge, but it can work that way as well for firms and practitioners that provide services, helping to bring their skill sets to a new and higher level, which will enable them to be able to address their clients and their customers' concerns in conjunction with whatever type of service they're providing.
Greg, how are we doing on time? Because we want to make sure we let our audience know about some upcoming training.
Oh no, you got 5 more minutes.
Oh, good. Okay, we can keep on talking.
I'm not smiling at you yet.
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind, Greg and Chinda, passing the and bling. There should be a bling, but if you guys don't hear the ring, there's a poll question up. So be sure to answer the poll question if you want to get CPE for this morning's session. I'd like to share my screen if you wouldn't mind, Greg, because I want to let our audience know of some training that's coming up where Mark and Bob and several others. All right, thank you, sir. I want to bring up my screen. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, you all should have received a communication from Parnell Black, our CEO, introducing the Pocket Experts platform. We have 2 trainings this week that Bob and Mark will be conducting today from 2:30 to 3:10 Eastern, and tomorrow the same time, part of this conference agenda. But if you're not attending the conference and are joining AVW as a member, please join the 2 of them this week to learn a bit more about the platform. We're also launching a webinar series starting next week, but it's very specific, this series, to how the platform can support NACVA members. It will, Bob and Mark and a few other instructors that you all might know, Michael Kaplan, Karen Casino, Chris Hamilton, Garth Tebay, I think that's all of them, guys.
Myself and Bob.
And Bob and Mark, of course, will be joining this series to help you re-engineer or discover how you might re-engineer your business valuation practice, how you might re-engineer your financial litigation or forensic accounting practice, also to help you discover how to take advantage of your untapped skills. We often hear from our members that they earn a CPA or they earn a math and aren't quite sure what to do with it, what areas to specialize, or how to integrate the valuation or litigation services into your practice. And so they will provide some guidance and intel on how you can tap into your uncharted or your untapped skills to help your practice. And then also how you can use the platform to overcome technical challenges and become a hero to your clients. Do you guys want to speak a little bit about the training?
Yes, Brian, we put this program together to really help the NACVA members use their skill sets and be able to expand their consulting practice. No longer is it just about going through and determining what a valuation report is going to be, right? There's way more advantages of determining exactly how to use that skill set to broaden that reach, to expand your capabilities in the marketplace and help small business owners coach them into the future of what they really want to be. And Pocket Experts is a tool to help you do that. And we're going to show you how, for a very small amount of money, you can expand your business and your practice, not only through a training system, but also by the means of leveraging your time through that system to generate a considerable amount of money. One of the examples that we're going to show you is how in a very small period of time, you can actually grow your business by $250,000.
Yeah, the point of the program, the training, and the platform itself underlying the program is simply to help our members and our contributors and experts expand their practices both technically and their skill sets technically through being able to offer additional services from them and their staff and their professionals that work for them, and also geographically. I mean, if the coronavirus has taught us anything, the pandemic, is certainly that we can operate in a virtual marketplace. And that is a true benefit of using Pocket Experts Solutions, Brian, to allow our members, our contributors, and people using Pocket Experts Solutions to expand far beyond what they've traditionally been able to do in their practices, and as such, be able to grow their practices and the value of the practices.
So,
Well, as I see Greg is back, that means our time
back.
is wrapped up.
I am here now. Yes.
So for all of you who are joining us, we have 2 sessions this week, as I mentioned, today and tomorrow, during our conference, where you can join Mark and Bob to learn more. We also have this webinar series coming up next week and scheduled later in the year. It's a free 5-part webinar series, and you can earn continuing education by attending. If you visit nacva.com/pocket experts, you can learn about the program and also register. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Mark, for the time that you invested in this platform as a way to help our members grow and achieve growth in their firms. And if you're wanting to do that yourself, you should check out Pocket Experts, get involved, learn more, and take your practice to the next level.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you, guys.
That really sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to tuning in and attending some of your trainings. So thank you.
Good.
Okay, guys, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll
And
see you.
Greg
Take
and
care.
Chinda and Colin, I will stop sharing my screen now, and you guys can take it away.
There we go. Rob Carter, I hope I see you there. I'm hoping maybe we could start a little early, and I could interview you now, as I think we do have some power issues with a scheduled presenter. Are you available?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, good to see you. You
too.
just simplified my planning, and Michael Gregory will interview Michael Pactier in at 9:15. So why don't we? Let me see if I can change the slide. All right. And we also, is Carrie in also?
Yep, I'm here. I was just going to ask if you wanted me to come on.
Or
There I
why
am.
don't you come on, and we'll have a very nice, I guess, three-way conversation about business interruption claims, right?
Right.
Wonderful. Why don't we start, and however y'all can, whoever speaks first gets it. But why don't we talk about, just what exactly is a business interruption claim?
Right. So business interruption claims are usually claims related to insurance policies. So typically a lost profits, or a business is not able to operate in the way it needs to operate due to something that is a covered cause under the insurance policy. And the claim is to then get a reimbursement of those lost profits.
What are typical types of covered, covered claims? What are typical things that happen that are covered?
I would say usually in a normal situation, it's going to be events such as hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, fire, natural disaster damage are generally what we see, the events occurring that will cause a business interruption loss profit claim to be initiated.
I may be jumping a little out of order, but one of the things I have heard is that one of the issues going on now is that, again, some sort of physical damage has often been one of the requirements. Do most policies require some sort of physical damage as opposed to other types of damages?
I'll say something, you can jump in, Robert, and add. Physical damage, I would say physical damage, usually they'll say property damage, physical damage, or loss of use of property. And that's the thing that we're seeing now with the COVID virus. It's not actually the damage or loss of property or damage to the property, it's the loss of the use of the property. Robert, did you want to add anything on that?
You're right. I mean, that's historically you'll hear that it's actual damage to the property and inability to use the property. In certain cases now with the COVID virus, there are some claims that are going to be forthcoming that are due to the loss of the use of the property and potentially just general loss of operations. So yes, it doesn't necessarily have to be specific property, although we expect there will be a lot of insurance companies that are going to be fighting that particular issue.
Yeah, my son works for Chubb, and they're very excited about all of these issues, I can tell you. So, they sent me to law school, and I can really stretch a loss of use far beyond what was probably thought would happen when they wrote the policy. Put it that way. Great. So, how are business interruption claims different from traditional loss profit calculations, and sort of how do the two interact?
So in a traditional loss profit claim, although you do have to link it to usually a breach of contract or something along those lines, you're typically just trying to figure out the bottom line loss of profits. In a business interruption claim, there's a definition of what those profits may be. And on top of that, there's typically language in the policies that allows for extra expenses to get up and running again. So it's not necessarily loss of profits, although that's included, but usually business income is what it's called. And then on top of that, if you have to incur additional expenses to be able to operate either fully or partially again, those can be covered under certain policies. The big difference is that there are different things that may be covered or not covered, and different types of reimbursements that may exist. Carrie, feel free to expand on that issue.
Oh, I was just going to add that there may be different clauses in the policy that are, I don't want to say activated, but that are used as a result of the loss. It could be because of the loss event itself. It could be a contingent loss. It could be there are different parts of the policy that may come into play. It's not just one thing, like if there's a breach of contract and just that's the reason you have loss of profits. There may be, it might not even be a direct physical loss itself. It could be a contingent loss. So, or it could be a force majeure or something like that that causes your policy to initiate a claim.
So what I'm hearing is a business interruption claim is really a sort of animal of the insurance policy, and it kind of starts and begins with at least how different people might read the printed lines in the actual policy. Am I hearing that right? Is that really what you're telling me?
Yes, I think that's a good way to state it. It usually is insurance-based, and the policy dictates pretty much the entire assignment. If it's not covered, you're not going to get reimbursed. And if there are certain calculations that are required or co-insurance, other things that may exist that are part of the terms of the policy, that impacts the entire assignment, what's going to be accepted by the insurance company. So that is a very important part.
Basically, before you can really do much on a business interruption, you better get your hands on the complete policy.
Exactly. And that's Robert and I co-present. We actually have, starting the week after next, a week-long webinar series on business interruption lost profits that goes through everything from A to Z. So you can learn everything you need to know. We get into the specifics of the policy, and that's one of the first things we do on an engagement is read the policy and make sure we understand the policy before we even begin any information gathering or any calculation or analysis, so that we know if there's any kind of limitations, time limitations, things excluded or whatever. But with the COVID-19, we're running into unique issues, but that's, across the country. I still believe, and I haven't heard, I don't know if you have, Robert, I still don't think there's been one claim that has been paid to date that I'm aware of.
I haven't seen any yet that's been paid, but I think it's a matter of that first claim that gets paid, or a court, forcing them to pay, and then it's going to open up the floodgates.
Yeah, let me kind of a related question on the COVID, and again, so far we've really been focused on the policy, but I know in other areas that I have more familiarity with, we have all the agreements between all the parties, and then the courts chime in, and sometimes their opinion is a little different than how you or I might read the documents. How I would assume that could be a factor in what we're talking about here, particularly as related to COVID. Could you talk about, how the interaction with maybe what the courts may rule versus how the insurance companies at least are reading their policies, how that looks to be going at this point?
I can say, I know one thing. I know a lot of insurance companies, and it has been since day one, is they're being very preemptive. They're even putting on your websites, and if you go, I haven't been recently, but I know a couple months ago they were putting on their websites that we do not cover COVID-19, but then in small print they would put, but we will evaluate each case on a case-by-case basis. So they were trying to dissuade business owners from even filing a claim. The agents were told by the larger association to dissuade business owners from filing claims, saying we don't cover it, even though that may not be the case. It may be the case for some, but not all. But I know there are as I said, everybody is being denied that has filed a claim. I know there is a lot of people that have retained attorneys, and litigation is starting in a lot of these cases. So that's, up to date. That has, the insurance companies are saying, oh my gosh, we're going to go bankrupt if you file your claim, and everybody does, trying to make people feel guilty. Which isn't necessarily true. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds when that first case actually goes through the whole court process and trial, and the judge has to make a determination.
Well, this is also a state, it is a state law issue, isn't it? So, I mean, we could have 50 different determinations. I mean, in theory, or at least my guess is we'll end up with 2 or 3 big variants, and different states will sort of grab what they feel comfortable with. Do you see that possibly happening?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I believe as of a couple months ago, I don't have the current update, there were a couple northeastern states, I believe it was New York, New Jersey, and another state, that the courts, or I forgot who it was, were trying to get a law passed, legislation, get it passed that all insurance companies must cover COVID-19 cases. And of course, there's going to be a lot of pushback because you can't or shouldn't be able to force an insurance company to cover something that may be legitimately not covered in a policy. So I know that was being tried in some areas. Robert, do you have anything different to add?
No, I think you're right that's generally what was trying to happen. One of the things, Greg, what you were mentioning, it's state by state, but I think it's going to be more specific language in policies, because if a state rules that specific language that's written into a policy means that needs to be covered, I think anyone that has that same type of policy is going to try and jump on that same issue. Within
the state, or
I think any state at that point, if they're saying that it was ruled in one state that this language meant it was covered for COVID, I would assume that they would also think that would apply to them if it's the exact same language in their policy. But I realize every state can accept or not accept.
Well, a lot of people don't understand how our courts work, and they believe that if California does it, Nevada should do it. And, the state courts can be they can all pile on, and they can be very independent depending on the issues. And I certainly think, again, because there sort of is this public policy concept of, was this really what the insurance was intended for, and are the losses going to be so big? I'm not saying I agree with that, but I understand the concern that this was something that wasn't really ever intended, and if the states really start making them pay out claims beyond underwriting, they could have a problem. Why don't we do this? Since I'm on, I don't get to click on to tell us that we're almost done. So why don't you all, if you've got a final thought on this, and then we're going to, and I see Brian came on, maybe he has a final thought.
I do. Just want to reinforce what Carrie and Robert mentioned. We do have a series of training coming up August 17th to August 21st, a live webinar series where both Carrie and Robert will cover planning the business interruption engagement, business interruption policy differences, the period of restoration, the types of business interruption calculations, and business interruption claims opportunities. This is a live webinar series, as I indicated, 15 hours of continuing education, but also this series is available on demand through our CP On Demand library, where you can earn a Certificate of Education Achievement in business interruptions and lost profits claims. So if you're interested in this area and learning more, you can certainly dive into this in depth with both Robert and Carrie. Thank you both for building the program and teaching and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And Robert, we hope you stay safe, warm, and dry out there in Maryland, and don't get blown away or swept away by the storm. And appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you both so very much. That's awesome. I guess next we have Michael Gregory is going to interview Michael Pactier. So as long as I only say the first names, I will get it right. Good morning to both of you. It's a pleasure to have you both here, bright and early, at least bright and early on the West Coast, or maybe not even bright, just early.
It's early.
So I'm going to let the two of you get started, and you know what it means when next time you see me. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you very much. Glad to be here, Greg, and welcome, Michael. Glad that you're here.
Hey, finding you. That's your house, or that's a cool backdrop?
That's a virtual home behind me here.
Okay, it's a nice home.
Oh, thank you. Michael, before I go into the questions that I'm going to have here about this new process, can you just tell us a little bit of background about yourself and how you tie into bankruptcies?
Sure. I have a small CPA firm located in Chicago Loop. One business partner. The firm as a whole specializes in forensic accounting and valuation services, lost profit damages, and bankruptcy, and a fair amount of family law. My area of expertise over the years has been to develop lost profits, economic damages, and bankruptcy. And sometimes they coincide primarily because defendants who are hit with lost profit judgments often declare bankruptcy to manage, monitor, or evade those claims.
Is there a new system out there for small business bankruptcies?
There is. Earlier this year, Congress, or actually last year, August 2018, Congress passed a new Small Business Reorganization Act called the Sbra. It was passed by Congress in 2019 and it became effective in February 2020. People calling it the Sbra, and it created a new subchapter 5 of Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code for small business debtors.
What is this new system? How does it work?
So how it works is if you're small enough and your size is defined by the amount of debt that you have, if you're small enough, the debtor can get a streamlined Chapter 11 process. So some of the more complicated, more expensive, more time-consuming elements of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy are removed, and the small business debtor can go through the bankruptcy process quickly. Again, this is the reorganization Chapter 11 section of the Bankruptcy Code, not the Chapter 7 liquidation. So bottom line, small business debtor can reorganize quicker.
What does small mean?
Small means that the debtor has less than, wait for it, $2,725,625 of debt. Don't know how Congress came up with that. For purposes of today, let's call it $2.7 million of debt. So if the debtor has less than $2.7 million of debt, it was eligible for this small business restructuring. And again, I want to take care to explain that this was passed by the Small Business Reorganization Act, not by any pandemic-related legislation. People think that's the same. What the pandemic-related legislation did was to change that $2.7 million to $7.5 million for 1 year, and then it'll revert.
That's in the new, is that the CARES Act?
Yes, so the CARES Act changed one piece of the Small Business Reorganization Act for 1 year only. And that was only to change this $2.7 million approximate limit to $7.5 million for 1 year.
So if you have less than $7.5 million worth of debt, this can be applicable to you.
Yes, there's a few exceptions. You cannot be a single asset real estate case. So if the LLC is a real estate holding company, it has one mortgage and owns a piece of real estate, you cannot avail yourself of the Small Business Reorganization Act, irrespective of the dollars.
Okay. Well, what are the top changes with the SBRA initiative compared to the original Chapter 11?
So the number one change is that a trustee will be appointed in every case, and this is a subchapter 5 trustee, not the U.S. trustee. So in every Chapter 11 case, a U.S. trustee is appointed. That doesn't change. What changes is for this small business reorganization, there is now going to be a subchapter 5 trustee.
What does that mean?
Okay, so that means there's a panel. There's a panel of subchapter trustees. At the moment, the U.S. trustee has appointed to the panel 250 subchapter 5 trustees coast to coast in all the federal bankruptcy districts. Here in Chicago, which is Northern District of Illinois, there are 4 appointed subchapter 5 panel trustees. I happen to know 2 of the 4. I happen to have worked previously with one of the 4 extensively.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the principal changes, if we may.
Yes.
So a subchapter 5 trustee is appointed in every case. No creditors committee is appointed unless the court orders one appointed for cause. No U.S. trustee fees are paid, and a plan of reorganization must be filed within 90 days after filing of the bankruptcy, and only the debtor can file a plan of reorganization, which means this could work quicker. Within 90 days, debtor can file its plan of reorganization, doesn't pay any court fee, U.S. trustee fees, no creditors committee, and the debtor is the only one who can file a plan.
And the second element that you brought up is that no creditor committee will be appointed unless orders one are appointed for cause. What does that mean?
So for cause means that the debtor is acted fraudulently, gross mismanagement, gross negligent, not present, not participating, not following the rules. Okay. In that case, the U.S. trustee can allow, creditors can file an objection to being disallowed a creditors committee, and the bankruptcy court can adjudicate. Another difference is usually a trustee is appointed in a Chapter 11 case only to investigate some wrongdoing or malfeasance. And although there is now a subchapter 5 trustee in every one of these small cases, that the role of that trustee is not to investigate any wrongdoing, again, unless for cause the court or the U.S. trustee feels that they should.
Okay. Well, what is the big deal, the SBRA Act really?
So the really big deal here is that a small business that could otherwise not afford Chapter 11 could actually be reorganized. And the other big deal here is that this subchapter 5 trustee could increase the chances of a fair and equitable resolution. It's envisioned that the subchapter 5 trustee could be a mediator between the debtor and its creditors. It could mean that this subchapter 5 trustee, who's an experienced practitioner, could bring the parties together and effect a reorganization very quickly. So in very practical terms, a small business with a relatively modest amount of debts could reorganize within 3 months.
So as you think about the old system, you think about this new system, what are areas that you might be able to address, like, for example, with your practice?
So there's not, no pun intended, but the jury is still out
Okay.
on whether or not professionals will be involved in the new subchapter 5 cases. On the one hand, one would think that no professionals, valuators, are necessary either by the creditors or by the debtor or by the subchapter 5 trustee, because it's meant to, the process is meant to incur very little administrative costs.
Mhm.
So one would think professionals are not welcome. On the other hand, the debtor is going to have to come up with projections, because the debts are going to need to be paid in a 3 to 5 year window. The debtor is going to be expected to pay its projected disposable income to the creditors over, say, a 3, 4, or 5 year period. And the debtor may not be sophisticated enough to do these projections and may need a professional. Or let's take the case that the small business debtor has a investment in an unlisted company. Let's say it has 100% shareholder members' interest in another entity. How are you going to value that other entity but for hiring a professional to do that? So I see that there is a role for professionals, but one U.S. trustee that I spoke to and the one subchapter 5 trustee that I spoke to said there's really a disincentive to hire professionals. But we don't really know the answer yet to the involvement of professionals.
So on this new initiative, actually the answer is, as you said, the jury's out, so we'll see. Well, NACVA offers the Business Interruption and Lost Profits Financial Litigation Clinic, and that's something that had been brought up here, and they have information relative to bankruptcy, insolvency, and restructuring with this financial litigation clinic. Do you have any thoughts relative to that class or other courses offered by NACVA that you would care to comment on?
Yes, so I'm really a big NACVA fan, and I will tell you that I have been testifying, both in deposition and court, and somebody says, "Well, how do you know to do lost profits? Tell me where it says lost profits is calculated by sales projection method less saved costs and extra expenses." And I can actually point to training that I have received in the NACVA courses. I have the MAFF originally through damages. It's been amazingly helpful, both to secure new work and the deposition and trial, to show that I have generally accepted peer-reviewed methodologies.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Michael. It was great
Thank
talking
you,
with
Mike.
you today and learning about this.
I'm moving into that cool house.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Michael. Back to
Thank
you,
you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Michael and Michael. Very, very interesting. I get the theory that they're somehow going to do it without professionals, and I find it somewhat hard to believe because things have to be organized, and courts don't work well ad hoc. So I think this wraps up our morning show. Brian, do you have anything you'd like to add as we wrap here? Love the sunglasses. Future is bright. Gotta wear shades.
I'm one of those guys who has gotten a little older and requires reading glasses like everywhere. These are those cool ones that are blue blockers. So they look like shades, but I'm actually seeing the world a lot crisper now with them on.
They're supposed to make the screens easier to read. Somebody gave me a pair, but they're still in New Jersey, so I can't wear them with you this morning.
I do like these. So if any of you all are reader wearers needing your reading glasses, I'll just recommend you to a couple of places where I love buying them online. iBob's, a great online store for readers that look a little stylish. And Peepers, also a pretty cool spot if you need some cool readers at your home office or you're commuting between your home and your physical office. Want some cool glasses? Go check them out.
Yep. Well, awesome. I think this morning's show went very well. Thank you for bringing it for us. And, you know, Around the Valuation World is a monthly webinar. It's 2 hours. It is typically, which means other than when we have a holiday on a Monday, it is the third Monday of the month at 1 o'clock Eastern. We can all hopefully calculate what that means where we are. The next show is Monday the 17th. Everyone is invited. It is a member benefit to listen for free. And to get continuing education, there is a very, very modest charge. So I would strongly suggest, if you're going to be listening and you need continuing education like most of us do, it's really worth registering and making sure you click on that you're still with us and receiving those credits. This is very representative of what we do on the show. We just do it for 2 hours, working through a lot of current topics and some old favorites.
Yep.
And with that, I think I'm done, so I will let Brian wrap.
Yep, we're good to go. Thanks everyone for joining us. Also for our guests who are with us today: Mark Cusick, Bob Grossman, Robert Carter, Carrie Merrifield, Michael Pachter. Also, Mike Gregory, who also joined us, and thank you to Chinda and Colin behind the scenes for making the show run fairly smoothly from headquarters. Thanks all of you for joining us, and like Greg said, we hope you join us on the 17th of August and monthly to learn everything you can about the valuation world. We bring great content to you to keep you up to date as much as possible. So much is happening in the world of in our industry, and this is a good opportunity to keep up to date on it. So good show this morning, Greg. Thanks for championing it for us.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's wonderful to be listened to, and have a great rest of the conference.